Hello YouTube. This will be my first Rising video, which I'm quite excited to bring you. I'm gonna keep the video paused on this menu for just a little bit so I can explain what I'm gonna say in this video. So yeah, this track you're gonna see is Black Belt, which is the hardest in-game ninja track. I personally believe it's very difficult, like level 5 to 6. And in this commentary, I'm not going to talk about the track itself, but I'm going to kind of just talk about the game. And if anybody has any questions about the track or about certain things, just let me know. So, yeah. So I'm going to just start with my overall opinion on the game, Trials Rising. And then I'll get into specifics like ninjas and stuff. Oh, by the way, I think my rider is super fucking sexy. Like, well, I didn't spend too long like designing her because a lot of it is just already made like gear from sponsors and stuff. But yeah, the bike I like the nice gold studded wheels. So yeah, I guess that brings me on to my first point, which is the customizations in the game. It couldn't be better in my opinion. Like the customizations are amazing. This part of the game I think is perfect and probably couldn't be any better. I haven't played many games where customizations are a big feature, but in the games I have played, no customizations have lived up to have like even compared to the standard of Trials Rising. So that's definitely something I enjoy. Then I'm going to talk now about the career tracks and how kind of speedrunning feels. So bear in mind that I'm not like a top speedrunner. I'm obviously pretty decent, and I was able to get quite a few diamond times, but realistically, I'm not that great. But in my opinion, speedrunning and the career tracks are pretty much flawless. Sure, some tracks have tire glitches here and there, but at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of the tracks have really nice lines, very nice to speedrun, very smooth. The bike, both bikes, the Rhino and the Mantis, work really well on the tracks. Like I said, I mean, sure, there are a couple of tracks that aren't too great, but out of like 100 and whatever it is, a few tracks isn't bad at all. So the career is definitely a really good part of the game for me, and I'm really enjoying that. And yeah, now I guess I'll talk about the most important part, which is the ninja side of stuff. And my opinion on the Mantis, the bike I'm using right now, ninja tracks, and kind of what will happen, what I think will happen for the future of ninjas in Trials Rising. So, in my opinion, to really understand how the game works, you have to play it a lot. So I already have probably about 50 plus hours, 60 plus hours even, including the beta time and the time I've got in the game right now. Fair enough, probably about only 5 to 10 of those hours have been on ninjas. Definitely not 10, but about like 5 or 6 hours of those have been spent on ninjas, and the rest has just been spent on like career tracks and doing like progression. And so, in my opinion, I think the Mantis is a fine bike. Sure, it's not the Pit Viper. Sure, there are things that aren't too favorable. But at the end of the day, the bike can do things well, just like I can show on this track. And also, ninjas comes down to builders. As long as people don't build the same things as we did in Fusion, then the bike's going to be fine. I mean, even if people do build the same in Fusion, the bike can still perform. So I'm going to talk a bit about now, like the deficiencies, I guess, of the bike, or what it can't do compared to the Pit Viper. By the way, I've decided to show a lot of fails in this replay, mainly so I can have more time to speak, but also so you guys can get a look at like how the bike works, and also like kind of how I fail. So yeah. So I'm going to talk about fapping because, yeah, that's a big part of the game. In my opinion, the worsening of the fap has made it even worse, if that makes sense. So I personally don't believe fapping is very integral to the game. Sure, it's a technique that, you know, is used quite a lot in ninjas, and can almost make or break passing and not passing a checkpoint. But realistically, I don't think in Fusion you were rewarded for having a fast fap at all. For example, Scott's fap is extremely fast, much faster than mine. But I don't think there's any scenario, apart from one or like a few, where he would pass a checkpoint and I wouldn't. Because at the end of the day, like fapping in Fusion wasn't that serious. Like everybody with a decent fap can do pretty much anything. But in this game, because fapping is made less efficient, people with better faps are rewarded more, if that makes sense. Because where someone with a decent fap couldn't even dream of getting up, like right here, someone with a fast fap can just scheme shit like beyond. And so I think the worst, the like nerfing of the fap has had the opposite effect to maybe what it was thought to do. Maybe they thought like, or maybe they didn't think at all. Maybe it's just how the bike physics work. But yeah, that's my opinion on that. But then also, but I also think at the end of the day, like fapping is never something that's necessary in the game. Obviously, even in Fusion, you don't need to fap. If you hit something decently enough, it's fine. And you know, you see that here. There are a couple things where I do a decent fap, but like I said, my fap really isn't anything special. Most of the reason I do something is because I'm doing it somewhat decently. So yeah, that's that. I know a lot of people complain about that. The next thing is throttle control and like this so-called magnetic wheel where your back wheel just like sticks to shit. I mean, I say so-called, but it does exist. Like I've had it. My wheel does just straight up fucking glue to shit. And yeah, it is really weird. The game's definitely a lot different. And there are notable changes, especially if you've put thousands of hours into like Fusion. But I don't think they're necessarily too bad. Like throttle for me is perfectly fine. The hitbox of the bike is a bit weird, and so like when saving Spider-Mans and stuff, it can feel a bit dodgy. But realistically, if you know the hitbox of the bike, you know what to do. Like this is the issue I have, is people complaining about the bike being inconsistent, which literally makes no sense. Like the hitbox is stable. The bike will do the same thing like in a scenario. If you put the bike in the same scenario 5 times, the outcome will be the same. Like it's not just one time going to stick to a wall and the next time not if you press the same buttons. Like that just won't happen. So at the end of the day, it's all about learning the hitbox of the bike and the physics of the bike. As bad as you think they may be, that's just what's going to have to happen. And I feel like I'm kind of familiar with the bike now. I did spend a lot of time on this track, and I feel like I did underperform a lot. So I'll just quickly talk about that. I guess I'll talk about this track now, because I'm kind of done talking about the game. Like my overall opinion is I think the game's great, and I think a big part of the game is the community, and hopefully a lot of other people think the game's great and continue to enjoy it. I know I've been enjoying it, and I know a lot of my like Trials friends have been enjoying it, so yeah. So yeah, I'll just talk about this track now for a bit and the time I spent on it, which is fucking ridiculous. So I probably had about 6 timeouts on this track, right? I decided to play it one night, and I timed out 3 times on the squish bounce checkpoint, which happened a while ago. It was like checkpoint number 6 or something. And that was simply because I had no idea what I was doing. Like I just didn't know what to do until Malik, luckily, he showed me what to do. Or he showed me a strat, which you saw me do, which is like instead of just squish bouncing and fapping up, you like kind of lean back on the side of the box and you manage to push up, which for me is super consistent. I can get it like within 5 minutes every time. And then apart from that checkpoint, I found every checkpoint basically level 4 to 5, aside from this one I'm on right now, which I find really hard. Like this checkpoint is solid, definitely a level 6 checkpoint. And I couldn't do this endo hop, so I resorted to doing this, which is like just essentially a break climb. And that's because, like I said, like fapping and the whole front wheel, the front wheel is like very different in this game, and endo hops are completely different as well. And I'm just not used to them yet. I mean, they obviously work because people like Blubby can get it very consistently, and I think GT4 can get it consistently as well. Maybe RJ and Malik, but I just couldn't, so I decided to use that strat, which was just to brake climb, which kind of emphasizes the throttle in this game. Like, sticking to stuff is very easy. So yeah, that's definitely something I noticed. So yeah, I spent ages on this track, and my grind paid off, and I managed to get this run. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary and this track. And yeah, that would be all. I'll upload another video soon, I guess. Thank you for watching, and bye.